good morning, folks. Welcome back to another episode live from Jerusalem to our wonderful friends in Europe and beyond with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg. We're just waiting on Rabbi Chaim right now. We're not sure. You never know with rockets being fired in Israel, but we know that Rabbi Chaim just got back late last week to Israel from his trip to the United States, which was pretty exciting. I know he met up with a few friends of mine down in Tennessee way. And he moved to Ohio and a few other places. He was keeping himself pretty busy, and we always look forward to the lessons he has to share with us. But today, so far on our panel, we're joined by our good friend Daniel down in Bogota, Colombia. Daniel, always good to see you. We've got their friend Mattis and his family in Vilnius, Lithuania. And today I'm joined by Tony down in Arizona. We were just chatting about the weather, and he says it's about 55 degrees down there, and they're already planting. Considering it's February, they're already planting. Tony, how are you? It's a pleasure to meet you. Tell us about yourself and how Rabbi Chaim reached out to you.
Oh, hi, Tony. Just through the internet here, bouncing back and forth, and he presented the invitation to join this class, so I'm new to all of this, so it's, jump right in and see what I can learn.
Oh, excellent. Rabbi Chaim, I met up with him more than, about 2.5 years ago and started to chat with him. I'm a former Christian educator and author and film producer. And realistically, I had some tough questions. I debated all the way up the food chain in Christianity. And I got to the point where I had to get some straight goods from some rabbis I wanted to go right to Israel. I wanted to declutter the murky waters and know some truth. And so I just clicked with Rabbi Chaim. Now, I know his English isn't the best, but when it comes to him selecting words for me, he always seems to select the right English word that just, boom, lights up my mind. And he's been sharing with us out of the book of Genesis, going through it bit by bit, little by little, piece by piece. And really bringing alive the Hebrew tradition for the early Genesis. And I find that without their oral tradition, a lot of it is guesswork and patchwork. It doesn't make sense unless you know exactly what they're saying. So, can you tell us a little bit about your background, Tony? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but we're waiting for Rabbi Chaim, and I hope that all is well in Israel with him.
Background-wise, religiously, I grew up, like most people, in the Christian church, and from anything from Baptist to Assembly, Pentecostal, and then after about 20-some years, 30 years of that, I kind of got discouraged with it. And anytime I asked a question, it was, well, we don't know, we don't understand God, so it's not meant for us to know.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you come from a similar background as myself. I mean, I attended a division of a Sweetwater Bible College, which was down in Arizona, but a division of, and point being is that I'm very familiar with the Pentecostal style background. And I'm so glad that we the rabbis, especially those out of Israel and Jerusalem, are willing to reach out and touch the world, the 70 nations, and teach Torah the way it was shared with them. It's invaluable, and I don't want to beleaguer this anymore. Tony, we're so glad you're with us, and we're so glad that Rabbi Chaim invited you, and we're thankful you're with us. And without any further ado, Rabbi Chaim, we see you're there back from the United States. Thank you for being with us today, sir.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I'm sorry for my lateness. Good to see you, Daniel. Tony, hi. Good to see you also, Dan, and also from people from Vilnius. They are inside. I'm sorry for my lateness. Just a moment. And probably I will do a small, short break in the middle. I'm really sorry for my lateness. I had here someone that came to visit me after 3.5 years that I didn't saw him. So it was, one of the people. Tony, you from? Tony? From where are you?
Arizona.
Arizona. Okay, thanks. Good to see you with us. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we can start, Daniel. Good to see you also. I think that we can start learning. No, this is why we came here. This is why we gathered together. I will say a few.
Torah.
No, I will say a few words about last week. Last week we had a very, very good meeting with three people. We sat down together. It was really good. We had a good time. We sat down together for 5 hours almost, and we discussed a few things that we're intending of doing in the United States, and we're going to establish this community. One of the things that we're intending of doing is next year, another something like November of this year, to do a big committee,
Conference.
a big conference in the United States as something that is going to be previous for the conference, the big congress that we're doing from all over the world in 2 years, in November, a year and a half from now. So we'll start to spread the words, everything in the next coming 2-3 weeks, so people will know all the dates and everything else. And I think that now, mainly we need to learn. Let's learn Torah, you know. Let's have a bit of discussions, and let me share the screen and let's start learning. It's okay. Everybody is in the mood. We can start learn. I want to compare two verses. We're going to continue on after the flood in the Bible, in the chapter 10, in chapter 9, chapter 10. But before we will start, I want to compare two verses that we have. It will be much easier for me to open the Bible. By the way, last week, they came to the meeting with the Bible, and we sat down and we learned a lot of things in the Bible. It was also very nice and very
with
Terry,
Terry,
Scotty,
and
David.
Was it David? I'm not familiar with David, but I know Terry and Scotty. Terry's such a gentleman, a champ. You know, since I have got to know you, Rabbi, Terry's one of the guys I've met shortly thereafter, and I just find everything he has to share, you know, is been tried and true and beautiful. He loves Torah, and you couldn't connect with some nicer people in the U.S.
I agree. I think that they are nice. No, also Tony is very nice in the United States. You know, we can't forgive him, but and there are people in Canada, in South America. It's okay, but just a moment. Let me find the verse. I want you to read down, please, 3 verses, verse 26, 27, 28, and then we will compare this with another verse that is coming to us after the flood, after the big flood. Okay?
All right.
Please.
Very good, Rabbi. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and they shall rule over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the heaven, and over the animals, and over all the earth, and over all the creeping things that creep upon the earth. And God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. And God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the sky, and over all the beasts that tread upon the earth.
Okay, so in verse number 28, we're finding some sort of a blessing. A blessing. It's not when God is saying to them, be fruitful and multiply, he's not obeying them to become like that. He's not saying to them, this is one of the missions that you have. It's not one of we call this a mitzvah. I think that we said already more than once that the word mitzvah in Hebrew, it's have 2 meanings. One meaning is to obey, that you must do something. But the second meaning, and it's not less important, is that it's connecting. Mitzvah, it's from the word tzevet, team. We are a group of a team, few people together. So mitzvah is being connected with God, being a team with God. Here we don't find any commandments of God. He is blessing them. This is the way that will happen in this world. If you will, this is one of the things that you will do, and you will manage to do, to be fruitful and to multiply. And then also to conquer the earth and to do all those things. Let's go to chapter number 2. In chapter number 2, we're finding that God is commanding things from Adam. Okay, he's demanding them to do things. He's asking them to obey for something. And what are the things that he's asking them? Just a moment, I'll find it. Here it is. Let's read verse number 16.
Verse 6.
Sorry. Start with verse number 15, then 16, and 17. Also, three verses.
Now the Lord God took the man, and he placed him into the Garden of Eden to work it and to guard it. And the Lord God commanded man, saying, Of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it, for on the day that you eat thereof you shall surely die.
Okay, so God here is starting to command. Okay, I'm highlighting this. He's starting to command. He's starting to say. We spoke about this. What exactly he is asking, what exactly he's commanding. And it's not, we spoke about this, that in heaven, we didn't saw, it's not those chapters. I'm just reminding us, those chapters are not speaking about things in our reality, okay, like when someone is dying, God forbidden. So we're saying he is in heaven. And we know that in this time, in this period of those chapters, still we didn't have the body. So when God is commanding men to eat, we spoke about the meaning of the word eating. Eating is to adjust things. So on the same thing, to eat from the knowledge tree or to eat from the life tree is to adjust things in the right way. We spoke about those things, but we see here suddenly that God is starting to command things. He's not only blessing us, but he's also commanding us. I want to jump now to Genesis after the flood. After the flood, we learned all sorts of things till now, also about the flood. And I want to read a bit. Okay, just a moment. Let me move this from here. Okay. I want to learn here a bit what God commanded Noah and his son to do, to act, to react, and to understand exactly what is happening here. Okay, this is where, or maybe we'll see first of all chapter number 8, where Noah is going out from the ark. We'll read these 2 or 3 verses. After we had a very long flood, that it was for a full year, and at the end of those days, we will see from verse number 15. Okay, verse number 14 is saying that everything in the earth was dry, and then verse number 15. Please read verse number 15 till the end. We will read it slowly, and we will see some sort of a covenant that there is between God and man. Okay, please, verse number 15.
And God spoke to Noah, saying, Go out of the ark, you and your wife, and your sons wives with you, every little living thing that is with you, of all flesh, of fowl, and of animals, and of all the creeping things that creep upon the earth, bring out with you, and they shall swarm upon the earth, and they shall be fruitful and multiply on the earth. So Noah went out, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him, and every beast, and every creeping thing, and all fowl, everything that moves upon the earth, according to their families, they went forth from the ark. And Noah built an altar to the Lord, and he took of all the clean animals and of all the clean fowl, and he brought a burnt offerings on the altar. And the Lord smelled the pleasant aroma. And the Lord said to himself, I will no longer curse the earth because of man, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. I will no longer smite all living things as I have done. So long as the earth exists, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. I love that last verse.
The last verse is also saying that it's the world that we know today. Okay, that there is summer and winter, and we have day and night. Nothing of this is never changing. Okay, nobody can prove scientifically that the sun will rise next day from the east. Nobody can prove that. Nobody have any proof that everything that was till today will happen also tomorrow. But in the verse, it's saying to us some sort of a promise from God that this is what will happen. And what we see here, basically, in those verses, that God is blessing Noah, okay, when he is going out from the ark, and he's asking him. I want to remind us that we said that when he went to the ark, he went to the ark separately from his wife. They were not allowed to have any sexual connection and to bring more life, because now it's a time that, like the mother womb that they were inside. And now God is saying to him, you and your wife, is saying to him, you know, this is a time that you need to be multiply again. Now, at the end, we see that Noah is going out, he and his son, and his wife and his son's wives. So he's not really obeying 100% what God asked him to do. But even though God is blessing him because of the because he brought all this sacrificing to God, God is blessing him, and he's blessing basically what will happen. Now, after we saw that and we're starting to understand the context, we will continue on to the next chapter. And on the next chapter, we're starting to see how God is doing a covenant with Noah, and this covenant is being built up from two sides, I will say it. One side is the blessing, and the other side is all sorts of demandings that God is demanding. And it's very important to read, and we're going to read it, please, till we're going to read it at least till verse number 9. Okay, it's very important for me to read, please. So let's read it. Done.
Very good, very good. And God blessed Noah and his sons, and he said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. And your fear and your dread shall be upon all the beasts of the earth, and upon all the fowl of the heaven, upon everything that creeps upon the ground, and upon all the fish of the sea. For they have been given into your hands. Every moving thing that lives shall be yours to eat, like the green vegetation I have given you. I have given you everything. But flesh with its soul, its blood, you shall not eat. But your blood of your souls I will demand an account. From the hand of every beast I will demand it, and from the hand of man, from the hand of each man, his brother, I will demand the soul of man. Whoever sheds the blood of man, through man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of God he made man. And you be fruitful and multiply, swarm upon the earth and multiply thereon. And God said to Noah and to his sons with him, saying, and I, behold, I am setting up my covenant with you and with your seed after you.
Okay, this is enough. This is enough. We see a lot of things. This is basically the 7 laws of Noah. Okay, what we read now was the 7 laws of Noah. But it's more, first of all, it's very important for me to see this verse, and this is a very important one. We see in verse number 9, verse number 9, we see something very amazing, I think. Okay, we see that God did a covenant with Noah. I want to remind us all that in those days we did not have the Hebrew nation in the world at all. It's so important. People don't understand that. God, the Bible, the Jewish Bible, the Hebrew Bible, is not saying, you know what? God did a covenant with us. That's it. In this Genesis, we're going to read another 7 times that God is doing covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay? 3 forefathers of the Hebrew nation. But before that, we see that God is doing a covenant with all of the people of the world, regardless if he is a Jewish person or not. But we're not saying this today. Okay, today it's maybe popular to say those things. We're saying those words for almost 4,000 years. When we had the tribes in Africa who were sure that men came from them, Therefore, they need to control and to eat every white person who is going in Africa. And we spoke about this 4,000 years ago, where all the Romans in those days were sure that they are the most important aliens in this earth. Therefore, everybody else need to be conquered under them. And we spoke about those things when the Greece was here. Since then, we are saying that God did a covenant not only with the Hebrew nation. God, first of all, did a covenant with every person in this world, with every person that is a man in this world, man, woman in this world, because we have something very unique. We have the image of God with us. We have the possibility to ask a lot of questions in this world where all of the animals don't have this option. And this verse is so important that after that also he's saying it in verse 11, he's saying it again, okay? And I will establish my covenant with you. It's not only that I'm doing a covenant, I'm going to establish it. Now, when God is promising something, it's not something that, it will be changeable. God is not man. When God is promising something, this is it. So this covenant is with all men. I think that 3 or 4 weeks ago, we spoke about, we mentioned that a lot of people, a lot of kings and prime ministers and a lot of very important people came to Israel. And Rabbi Lau, one of the chief rabbi of Israel, a few years ago, he spoke in front of all of them and he said, what happened there in Noah's Ark that the animals didn't eat human in those days? Because they all knew that there is some sort of an enemy outside the ark, and the enemy is called the flood, that if they will start to eat one each other, nothing will stay here in this world. And they were together they were against the enemy outside them. And he said, Rabbi Lau, that today we have so much enemy against us. For example, the illness in this world. We can see this today.
Coronavirus, yeah.
We can see this today with the coronavirus. We can see what's happening. If the world won't work one with each other, we have a saying in Hebrew, if you won't be together one with each other, you will be hanged one next to each other. Okay? If we won't work together, we're going to lose it. Okay? And this covenant is saying, listen, the covenant is not only between the Hebrew nation and God. The covenant is between the whole world with God, the whole human with God, okay? And God is saying in verse number 9, verse number 11, when he's saying that he's going to do this covenant, to establish this covenant, if you will read verse number 10, we have responsibility on every living creature that is here in this world, okay? Everything. So, of course, it's true that now he gave us also to eat, that we have the ability to eat this every living creature. What he didn't give to Adam. Adam wasn't allowed to eat any living creature. Only Noah have this permission. This is what he's saying here in this verse number 3. Every moving thing that lives should be yours to eat. Like the green vegetation, okay, like I gave to first Adam, I gave him the green vegetation. I'm giving you now every living, everything that is live. I'm giving you everything like the green vegetation. So today we have also permission to eat every living thing, but the responsibility that we have on this earth is not starting with the Hebrew nation. It starts with all of the universe, with all of the people, since Noah went out from the ark. It's very important to know that. People are missing this. People think that, come on, it was only a covenant with the Hebrew nation. Now we can replace them. It's not like that. Well, the covenant is with all of the human beings. And each one of us in this human, I will say, structure, we have a different role inside. We spoke about this a few times. And the covenant is with all of us. Nobody can say the covenant was with this part of the world and now it's replaced with the other part of the world.
Right.
Please read the Bible. Read the simple Bible before we're going to inside to the Bible. I must go for 2 minutes to do something here, and I need to do a small break, and I will return back.
That's
Please
okay, Rabbi.
don't
Yeah,
go
I
away.
mean, there's lots there to discuss. Yeah, so
Okay, people can raise up also questions or things that you want to discuss this, because if not, we're going to go deeper inside. Okay, so in a moment I'm coming back. Sorry, 2 minutes. Sorry.
sure. Now I find I don't know, maybe if our panel's still up there. I don't know where everybody is. I find that passage that the dread of all beasts and animals will be on you. I found that to be a transitional point. I found that to be a question of humanity becoming an apex predator. You know, for Hashem to say, the dread of you shall be upon all. And when we think about it, humanity today, I mean, we see it on social media. I mean, people that hunt for sport and things like that. It's just a terrible, terrible thing to do. But the dread of humanity on all animals. I believe that prior to the flood, if we look in the records specifically, not too far from where Mattis is, if you get in Siberia and Russia, and even Alaska over here in northern Canada, there's plenty of like woolly mammoths. And I believe that the buried woolly mammoths all happened after or during the flood. And I believe that there were, I don't just believe, I'm confident that the tangible record actually shows that Paleolithic animals were wiped out. When it says that the animals that came on the ark, what's the difference between a lion and a saber-toothed lion? These things didn't just evolve. I mean, we had them in North America as far as the record shows, and I know that I would love to chat more with the rabbis on timelines. And I'm trying to a little bit with Rabbi Moshe Shulman out of Brooklyn. But the point being that I know that even a lot of rabbis in Israel are still young earth style. I don't want to say creationists, but I am more a pragmatist in the sense that I believe Hashem, Almighty God, to be, real in a tangible sense, and the evidence that's here on planet Earth to be real and validated. It validates Torah in a genuine fashion. I did started on one series, balancing science within Torah, and I actually stopped after the second one because I did not want to go into some details and end up with some headbutts with some rabbis, because I could tell I was alarming a couple of people. I had some conversations. When it comes to the time of the flood, my film Fingerprints of the Flood, I ended up debating people all the way up the food chain. And it's a question of timing. And I had one headbutt with a rabbi in Jerusalem who runs a school, a wonderful gentleman who's a scholar in his own right, but he believes in a localized flood. And I don't see that in the text, but more so, I don't see it in the evidence. And the evidence validates that a global flood completely happened. And the Torah is far truer than most minds can imagine or will imagine. And I was listening to Rabbi Singer and Rabbi Moshe Shulman last night on Tanakh Talk, and they used the word conflate. And the word conflate means to actually mingle ideas together, mix ideas. And sometimes you borrow a piece from here and here and you slam it together, and they're not compatible, or they're out of timing, or they're out of sync. And I find that a lot of B'nai Noach that come out of Christianity have so many conflated ideas. And the ideas, when I listen to Rabbi Chaim Goldberg here share Torah from the honest oral tradition and the way it was handed down, I find more and more. When I met Rabbi, he said, I asked him for a rabbinical ruling on some of my material, and he said, it's not necessarily outside of Torah. So it's a question of what is necessarily in and necessarily out. And when I hear him glean, even when people are discussing metaphysical answers, spiritual answers that are beyond human knowledge in a realm outside of a measurable framework. They know, the rabbis know that these are concepts based on traditions handed down, but there are things that are necessarily in the texts of Torah. And I love the way he's pulling out commanded, when God commanded, and how it's a partnership. It's not like a wicked taskmaster that they had in Egypt, where they became slaves and they were commanded to do things by their taskmasters. Hashem doesn't function that way, but when he gives a command, he leaves that room for teshuvah, for true, genuine repentance. And I find that it's not the ideal. He gives us a command so that we know, and if we know how to do what he would require of us, it makes all the difference. And I'll leave that back to Rabbi Goldberg, because I just find his explanations to me work.
Yes, I don't know exactly what you spoke about. Are there any questions? Are there any questions or something about?
Yes, Rabbi.
Yes, Daniel.
Hey.
Yes, I'm here with you. Yes.
Thank you. I actually have a question regarding the number 3.
And verse number 3.
Verse number 3. It says about every living thing that moves shall be yours to eat. But it does not. It does not specify what kind of living things humans were allowed to eat. So can you speak to us about a little bit about that verse?
Yeah, I didn't understand exactly your question, but let's speak about this verse. To speak about this verse, first of all, we need to see, before we go to this verse inside, let's see to compare for a moment, okay? In chapter number 1, when God is saying to men, we read this verse a few minutes ago, when God is saying to men that he is allowed, he needs to conquer the earth and to do everything, okay? And he's saying here that God blessed them. God said to them, be fruitful and multiply. We read it 2 minutes ago. And then look exactly what he is allowing them to eat in verse number 29. Please, Dan, read it. Read verse number 29.
Verse 29 says,
Yes.
and God said, behold, I have given you every seed bearing herb, which is upon the surface of the entire earth, and every tree that has seed bearing fruit. It will be yours for food.
Okay, that's it. Are we allowed to eat animals? Adam and Eve. This is the verses about Adam and Eve. This is chapter number 1. Chapter number 1, we don't have Noach yet, only Adam and Eve. God created Adam and Eve. He blessed them. Are we allowed to eat animals? What is the answer? No?
Well, at that point, no.
At this point, no. Okay. Now, let's go. And by the way, also the same thing with all of the beasts of the earth. Please read number 30. Verse number 30, please read that.
Number 30 says, and to all the beasts of the earth, and to all the fowl of the heavens, and to everything that moves upon the earth in which there is a living spirit, every green herb to eat. And it was so.
So the only thing that everybody is allowed to eat is only one thing, okay? The green herb, or I will say every seed, bring herb, or tree that have also fruits. That's it. This is what we are allowed to eat. Adam and Eve, this is what they are allowed. Now we can go back to the verse that you asked me, okay, in chapter number 9. And now we're starting to understand what exactly it says in this chapter. Oh, in verse number 9 here, in verse number in verse number 3, every moving thing that lives should be yours to eat, like the green vegetation. I have given you everything. Now we're understanding what's happening here. Adam and Eve only had the possibility or had been allowed to eat every green vegetation, right? Or every fruitful vegetation. Now God is saying, you are allowed also to eat everything that is alive. The reason for that, there are a few ways of understanding what happened here in history. First of all, don't forget that we're speaking about more than 1,000 years, that all of the things that they ate, it was only vegetations. They didn't eat any meat. And one of the things that happened is that they lost, I will say, the priority between men and animal. And there were people who gave more honor to animals and not to people. And this is why God now is saying, listen, eat the animals, and in this way you will have the right priority, that you are above the animals. When I'm saying that people gave more priority to animals, I will give an example. We know that, for example, in the old Egyptians world, the lamb was very holy. Nobody ate lamb. We know till today that in India, the cows are very holy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from the other side, we know that in the days before the flood, there was a lot of corruption where they used to treat men to each other in a very bad way. But they were treating the animals in a very holy way. So they lost the values of things. Suddenly, animals were very important and people were very download, I will say it like that.
Insignificant, yeah.
And this is why now God is saying, listen. Let's put everything in the proportion. Because if you're eating a chicken, or if you're eating a lamb, or if you're eating a cow, automatically you understand that you are above them. And you're not allowed to eat any man. Okay? Let's not forget. I'm giving you every moving thing that is alive, and you can eat it. But verse number 4, flesh with its soul, its blood, you shall not eat it. So this is where we're speaking about not to eat something alive. Okay, excellent. And more than that, if some animal will kill you, okay, but your blood of your souls, I will demand an account even from the hand of every beast. I will demand. Oh, more than that. If you, moreover, more than that, let's go to verse number 6. Sheds the blood of man through man, shall his blood be shed. Okay, you're not allowed to eat man. You're not allowed to kill man. You're not. So now we're starting to have the right balance. Animals underneath us, man is above us. Animals are not allowed to eat men. Men are allowed to eat animals. Oh, suddenly we're starting to see how the value here is being built up in the right position. We are trying to prevent that there won't be again such a corruption, so God won't bring again the flood. This is why he's starting to speak in those ways. It's answering you, Daniel. It's okay. You want more? I can go inside. But first of all, to understand what's happening here, it's not by coincidence that suddenly those things are happening. The beginning, we had no permission, I will say, and it's very logically also, it's very moral logically. How come we are taking life of an animal to eat it? So at the beginning, Adam and Eve, they didn't have any permission to do that. But along the history, after 1,000 years, after 1,000 years, people lost it. People started to admire animals, to put them as God, and to treat the same level human being in a very bad corruption way. So God, it was so corrupted, so God brought the flood. And now he's saying, listen. Let's put everything in the right proportion. You are allowed to eat animals. Animals are not allowed to eat men. I will demand, if one animal will kill some person, I will demand from the hand of every beast. God is saying, I will demand it. Okay? So man is allowed to eat animals. Animals are not allowed to eat men. So suddenly we're starting to see that there's a differentiation between those two. Man is above animal, okay? And we are not allowed to eat men. We're not allowed to kill men. We're not allowed to eat men. So how do we need to treat them? They are, like us. And we're starting to have the normal balance to understand how to work here in this world. Now, our sages are saying that in the end of the days, we won't eat any more animals because we will come to a stage morally where we have the right position, even though we're not eating the animals, because the best way is not to eat the animals who let us take his soul, not to eat the animals, but still to remember that we are above the animals, okay? We have conscience, we have mind, we have much more better things. We have the opportunity to get related, to get commanded, to be part of God's team. The animals don't have this, I will say, ability. And the way that they are getting close to God is mainly through them being sacrificed, okay? If you will ask the animal before he's getting sacrificed in front of God, do you prefer to be sacrificed or not? He will say, of course I will. I prefer to do that. It's good for me. I want to get closer to God. This is the way that I'm getting close to God. But in those days, since the flood till today, we are eating animals just for us to getting educated that the animals are underneath us and we are above them. And the man is something that we need to treat in the right way. I answered your question, Daniel. You want to go? You have more questions about that?
Well, yeah, you answered my question, but I mean, kind of, because
Okay.
of course, what you just told me was amazing. I'm blown away, like always. But let me
Okay.
let me put it this way. Is a Noahide person allowed to eat any kind of animal, any kind of living thing, even if it is kosher or not kosher?
This is a good question. Of course, he is allowed to eat everything. Yes, we have no limitation. We have no limitation, okay, at all. And this verse, the only limitation that we have, and we know that, is that you're not allowed to eat living limb. This is something that we know. And this is what's written down in verse number 4, okay? And this is, you can read Rashi. But flesh with its soul, its blood, you shall not eat, okay?
Okay.
Please, you can read Dan, you can read this Rashi, the commented of Rashi.
Flesh with its soul. He prohibited them to eat a limb cut off from a living creature, i.e., as long as its soul is in it, you shall not eat the flesh.
Okay, so
From said,
never mind.
yeah.
It's being brought up from everywhere, and the reason for that, I think that we spoke about this, but I can say this again. It's something that we need to expand this more and to speak about this more. The main thing here is that this is some sort of a commandment. And again, we see the difference. It's not only blessing. Here is something that God is commanding us. It's a commandment that is bringing us closer to God, and especially teaching us to have the foundation of all of the morality that we have in our life. Because what is the main difference between man and every beast? Let's go, for example, to the lion. The lion is also eating a living creature, okay? When he is in the field, nobody is allowing himself to be in the area because the lion is very dangerous. He's eating everything that is alive. Now, the lion is not always waiting that this, I will say, living thing in his teeth will be die. A lot of times he's eating him. He's still half alive and he's eating him. Why? Because he's hungry. I'm hungry. I'm eating. This is the animal. This is I will say the lion. As a human being, we need to have a bit of patience. And the patience is the first step for everything in our moral behavior. Don't straight ahead scream and shout out whatever is on your mind. Don't straight ahead react back. Don't straight ahead, take a moment of a breath, think for a moment, and to see exactly how is the best way to react. And this is why, or this is where so, for example, let's say that we are a group of people hunting for our lives, and we need to hunt something to eat, and we're managing to hunt the poor rabbit, and we want to eat him, and we're not waiting that he will die. Straight ahead, we're starting to eat him. We are not animals. We need to be a bit different. And this is why it's one of the things that this is the logical of this commandment, that, as we said, it's not only commandment, but it's also giving us the possibility to become part of the team of God, okay, part of God's team. But on the other side, we must admit, okay, and we must say this clear and loud, there is a permission to eat everything. Now, you're asking me as a Noachite, there are Noachites who are deciding to take upon themselves not to eat or to try to eat only kosher. It's good. I'm not saying, but be reasonable, okay? There are places in the world that if you will try only to eat kosher, you will die for starving. So I'm not saying to you to eat kosher and to die for starving. This is not the thing that you need to do. We spoke about this. God is asking us to live in this world. He's asking us to have, I would say, fun in this world, to be part of the normal thing in this world. Just a moment. תבדוק מה קורה עם האוכל שלו והכל בסדר? So this is where, ותבדוק שזה לא נוזל שם, בסדר? So this is where more or less the main, I would say, the main hardcore of those verses. There's a lot that you can go inside, and we have a few minutes, I can go inside a bit more, but if there is any questions, if not, we'll continue to something that I wanted to continue on those verses. Yes.
Continue. Rabbi, were you speaking to me?
I'm asking if it's okay. We can continue.
I've got somebody named Raquel online that's got a good point, and I just wanted to point out that what I've learned from yourself and from the God-fearing rabbis is that there is direction being given here. Torah is leading and guiding humanity out of a behavior pattern that is vicious, and it's taking people away from that vicious nature into that more righteous nature, and the commandments that you were talking about right from the beginning are framework and guidelines. And when you truly understand that, you wouldn't want to do this to an animal. From my understanding, when it comes to the limb of a living animal, if you go back before there was refrigeration, they didn't have freezers. They couldn't store things. You had marketplaces, especially, in the eastern countries, you had marketplaces where they would hang the animal live, right? And it would be kept alive. And if somebody wanted a limb, they would cut the limb off and keep it alive so that they could then have another fresh limb. If they killed it, it would then begin to die and rot. So they were cruel to the animal in order to prolong the expiration of the meat, if you will. So there's a brutality involved that the Torah is teaching humanity out of. But Raquel here online is saying, regarding to eating any kind of animals, what about the way of slaughter the way of slaughter for these animals, because being cruel is forbidden? So she's saying then eating kosher's not the best choice for a no-hide with a question mark. So in other words, we're allowed to eat everything, I guess, but how it's prepared. I know here in North America, everything is getting worse and worse as far as mechanical treatment of animals, the processing of food. It's so unhealthy. I've been to chicken farms, and I hear in beef it's even worse, but they're really promoting a lot of natural holistic. But maybe you could talk about what is permissible as far as.
Okay, so it's being proven in few ways that slaughtering the animal in the halachic way that the Jewish tradition is holding, and it came to us since the days of Moses, okay, since we got in the oral Bible, that this way is the most, I would say, fast and convenient way for the animal. All the other ways of electric shocks and all the other ways that there are in this world today are much more harmful, much more painful, and much more easy way, not fast, and bringing a lot of times to situations where it's still, I will say, living limb when they're starting to work on the meat itself. So this is something that we need to know. Now, if you're asking what is the best way, I think that, of course, if you're taking a kosher, I will say kosher meat from the next store that you have, for sure you are going out from all of the doubts that you can have when you're taking from places that are not kosher. Okay. On the other side, I've heard. I'm saying here something that I've heard. I didn't check it. She didn't check this up. I've heard that in Texas, for example, they are sending the Noahide community people there from Rhode Bryan. This, again, I didn't check this ever. And those are rumors that it might be that it's right. It might be that it's not. I'm not saying the exact thing that is happening. That they are doing some sort of checks in the factories that are killing the animals to see that they are not starting to deal with the meat and to prepare it for that it will be food for people until the moment that the animal is not dead. I think that as Noahide, it's very important to have this, I will say, some sort of eye keeping on the factories, because the factories, they don't really care on those halachic ideas, on those
They're all
halachic
about profit.
principles. And this is something that we need to start to put inside. So the best way is to do some sort of a lobby and to put it as a, I will say, as a law, in the international law, exactly how and where to slaughter the animal and when exactly you are allowed to start to reorganize the meat to become a food and everything else. But if we don't have the possibility to change the laws in the country that we are, so at least we can have from time to time we have the possibility of going to the factories and to see that they are not cruel to the animals, and that they are really killing them. And only after they are killing the animals, they're starting to work on the meat itself to reorganize it,
drain the blood.
Exactly, that you can eat it. It's one of the most hardest things. A lot of times, what I've heard, again, rumors. I'm not inside to this issue too much. I'm not living in the United States to understand exactly. But what I've heard, that from time to time also, when you're getting even a sausage, or you're getting all sorts of things, and a lot of time you don't know that it was started to being processed as a food while the animal was still alive, and this is, this is not allowed. So it's a problem. So we need to know that also. We're not allowed to, there are the three monkeys. The one who didn't hear, the one who didn't see, and the one who didn't spoke.
Exactly.
We're not supposed to be like the three monkeys. We're supposed to be a bit more involved with what we're doing. After all, we're putting those things inside our mouth, and it's becoming part of our body. So the question is, do we allow ourselves to become, to take things that are not allowed from God, to put them inside our body, and then to say to God, we want to be part of your team? Fair enough, but your body is against that. Your body is not going comfort with this wish that you have. So be careful what you're putting inside your mouth. Be a bit careful. You need to be careful
Yeah.
what you're putting inside your mouth, not less than what you need to be careful what you're taking out from your mouth when you're speaking about others or what you're doing with your mouth. So it's a very important thing that we have, in our life, in our bodies. Yes,
Wow.
Tony. Yes, question.
Living in the United States, I haven't heard of them killing animals and starting to process them before they're dead. Feedlots out here are a sketchy thing to begin with. They pile a ton of animals in, give them all kinds of antibiotics. They're not healthy. But one of my questions, excuse me, I have friends that work ranches, and when they castrate the baby bulls, oftentimes they will barbecue those and have them for lunch.
Yeah. I did an article with
Um,
Patrick from your area in the First Non magazine. Yeah. He talked about that.
It's a great point, Tony. And I remember that done also from the article. It's a great point. I know, I've heard it's very tasty. This is what people told me.
I've heard that too.
No, on the other side, this is exactly what you're not allowed to do. You need to bury this. You need to bury this. And
We've gone to raising our own beef and animals, so we don't have to deal with the food lots.
No, it's a good point. Those are things that in the modern world we're a bit far from the farmers. We are not really in the fields too much. We're much more in the urban
In
places,
the cities, yeah.
in the cities, and we don't really know. If you will say to someone that how exactly the nut is being built up, with 3 levels of something that is holding him, the green one, the hard one, and the inside one. People will say to you, "What are you speaking about? I'm just buying the nuts, in some sort of a wrap, and I'm eating it." But people don't know exactly what's happening, and we need to be careful. We need to be with more open eyes of what's happening. I'm saying again, just for a moment, think about this. We're not supposed to bring inside to our body, to our mouth, everything. We need to be careful of it. What
Show some
exactly I'm putting
self-control,
in? Exactly, you're going back to the self-control. What exactly we're putting inside our mouth? What exactly we are partnering with our body? After all, part of those things are going to stay part of our body for at least a few years. So, what is it that you're putting inside? What is it? It's very important. This point of understanding. I'll say it like that.
Rabbi, I love the transparency.
Dan, I'm sorry. I need to finish today a bit early. Not a bit early. It's 7:30 already, but I came late. I'm sorry I came late.
That's okay, Rabbi. We understand, and we're thankful. We're thankful for every time you take time out of your busy schedule to share. Please keep us apprised if we're going to broadcast for next week.
No, we will. We will. By the way, we have elections next week. We have elections in Israel. But I'm going to. It's the 3rd time in the last year. We're doing elections 3 times already in the last year. We started 11 months ago, the first one. Until now, we have very big difficulties with the government to organize a government that will have a government. And there's a very, very big debate here in Israel in what direction we need to go. And this is a very...
We look forward to hearing. Yeah, please keep us in the loop. Have you got any closing words, Rabbi, since you've got to run? I really...
Yes, yeah. I will say a few words. The main thing, first of all, hopefully, with God bless, we will meet next week. And I won't miss the timing. Hopefully, I will do my best. Next week, I want also to go inside to those verses that we learned today and to depth them inside, because this is the main, I will say, foundation of the 7 laws. And we'll continue on with the verses and the things that we are learning.
I got so many questions I wanted to throw at you. I know there's not enough time.
No. Throw the questions. No, throw the questions, because we will start them for next time, especially that it's still being recorded on the YouTube. So please.
Okay. Here's one to think about, because I've been pondering more and more this, trying to, really meld everything together. When it comes to Adam, like you're saying, only eating vegetables, only being vegetarian strictly. The command, from what I've been told of late, and I've even talked with other rabbis, it came down to a question of living animal. That some are even suggesting that Adam could eat a non-living animal, one that had died naturally or normal, because we do see in Torah, we do see that Cain brought an offering, Abel brought a lamb, and we do see the laws. We do see that even Noah understood clean and unclean animals. So Noah understood what was clean and what was unclean, but the rabbis are telling us that it's based on, not on kashrut laws, but it's based on he knew what was clean and unclean in order to sacrifice. So there was an understanding, and I try to balance it out because I know you are a former educator, Rabbi, and how does one balance the archaeological record? We see thousands and thousands of years of stone and bone tools, right? And sites with animal, people ate animals. But I've also paid attention with a lot of the archaeology in Jerusalem, especially a site that's old, really old, and I'm waiting to see if there's ever found any remains of animal diet. And so far so good. It doesn't show any, but when it comes to the question of was Adam strictly vegetable, but what you talked about today, you've illuminated to the audience and to our class the direction definitively that Hashem is doing a wonderful work in teaching about the benefits and coming out of the animalistic mindset, have some self-control. So the question being, we see in the record a lot of eating. It's something to think about.
No. I understand exactly your question, and you're more than right. We see that people did eat animals even before that, or they ate meat before that, before Noah times. It's. I think that we can allow ourselves once a year to stay with questions, and we'll answer them next week. once we can do that, right? Usually we can have this. I will say it like that. We have enough strength inside and self-confidence that even though we have questions, it's not that we're going to lose everything in our faith. So we can stay another week without any answer. And to stay with questions, it's also one of the things that we've learned today is to have patience. Mm-hmm. So also for the answers, we need to have patience from time to time. Okay?
All right. So we'll end it at that, much. Rabbi. We'll end it at that, and hopefully with your election next week, hopefully we can still hold a class. We'll post it on social media, folks.
Yes. I will send it, and we will send it out to the social media. And thank you very much, all. Good to see you.
Yes, Tony, thanks for joining us in the classroom. We hope to see you again. And everybody on YouTube, thanks for sitting in. Bye for now.
Bye.